Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today we've got Ryan Shirzadi on the show. Ryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Excited to kind of share my story.
Absolutely. Great to have you. And you are a fellow Houstonian. Are you from Houston or you've been in Houston for some time?
We could say I'm from Houston. I went to school here for the most part, at least high school. Lived overseas for a while over in Dubai area.
Cool.
So, yeah.
How long were you over in Dubai? I worked over there for like 6 or 7 months in 2014.
I was a kid. I was over there in 2001 through 2004.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since then. It feels like it changes all the time because I was only there for 6 or 7 months and the GPS couldn't even keep up. It would be like, turn around at this U-turn or roundabout. And I'm like, wait a second, they have a light here now, like overnight seemingly. But in any case, it's great to have you on the show, man. I'm excited to share your story, talk about, what you're up to, your company that you're a part of or that you're co-owner. What's your exact title right now? CEO?
So I'm an
owner. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Owner. Yep.
So how long have you been doing this? Did you work in corporate like after school and stuff at all, or did you just jump straight into this?
So this is always my dream. Entrepreneurship has always been something that's interested me. I started a few businesses in college. That's the time to start. It's a time when you have less risk. You can easily get something going, and you got to be cheap about it, obviously, because not all college students have a lot of money. Yeah, absolutely bootstrap. And that taught me the whole bootstrapping thing, right? Understanding that at the end of the day, TekRevol isn't funded. We're bootstrapped all the way, and we've bootstrapped to a really awesome point right now. But, to go back to the question, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship. It's something that's been like on my radar for a while, but, I graduated and had to get a job. I have to get capital to start something, right?
Yep.
So I go to school, come out, go work at a tech company, a very large tech company. And I don't think I'll drop their name, but I worked there for about a year and a half, and decided, it wasn't really for me. As I started to notice, I'm putting in all this work on a certain process, I'm doing a lot extra, and my salary is still peanuts. Yeah, nothing's happening on the other side. So
yep.
that was a piece of motivation. It was also the being put into a box kind of thing, right? I don't like really being put into a box. I like being able to express my creativity.
Yep.
And to be able to see results and own those results. And that's something that was like really exciting to me. So, starting TekRevol and getting involved in that was something that it was a risk, but at the time, I was young, and I decided, I am still young, but I decided at that point that, this is the time. If you're going to take a risk, do it while you're young. You can always recuperate and figure out and go back to corporate if something messes up. You need to realize that it's not the end of the world. So.
Right. You hear a lot of that advice. I've heard, Gary Vee talk about that, for example, like, hey, try something. Your life's not over at 25. If it doesn't work, go back and get a job. I feel like it's a mental hurdle a lot of us have of being like, well, how am I going to explain that 1 or 2 year gap on my resume or on my LinkedIn profile? Do I fill it up and just say I was volunteering and doing, social work? But really, a lot of employers don't even tend to care. I've even heard some people say it's benefited them to go overseas and teach English for a year and just explain that. It's a cool experience, and hiring managers are always happy to bring someone like that on board who has a little bit of a creative experience, not just one job after the next, right? So that is always a valid backup plan.
That's actually, you kind of touched on something that reminds me, it's kind of like the beauty of the startup, right? Even if you're the owner or you're a part of it, that everything you do is bigger than it seems. So
right.
every hat that you put on, every time you go put the extra mile in, I guarantee you'll be a lot more recognized at a startup than a corporate. And that's something that's really been exciting me, especially with my employees and everything. The fact that, it adds so much value in their eyes and in mine whenever, things are completed, things are done, new processes are made, picking up something that might not look the best and trying something, failing. And that's something we also live by, is the failing, right? Keep failing, keep trying. It shows you're learning new things. Every time you fail, you have 100% chance of learning something.
Definitely.
So, that's something that definitely is exciting about the startup culture.
Yeah, I love that about the whole startup culture, because so many times, people are trained to not fail. Even in school, failing's bad. Getting an F on a test is bad. You got to drop the class and retake it in many cases. I did that with my fair share of a couple of classes. There's only 3 tests in college, and then a final. If you get like a 30 on the first one, there's not really a chance of recovery. But in the startup world, it is all about failing fast, failing often, failing forward. So can you talk a little bit about like that failing mentality? I mean, it's only really failing if you quit, right? Do you kind of have that mantra and mentality in your company?
That's correct. And like, it's also failing if you don't try. So like, if you
Right.
don't try
Trying to
something,
fail
yeah. So if you don't
or
even
failing to
bother
try.
trying it, exactly, failing to try, trying to fail. So like, it's something to where like, it's, I'm not going to put you in a box. I mean, startups aren't going to put you in that box that I was referencing earlier, right? The box where
Yeah.
you're sitting there and you have one task, and if you mess up, all of a sudden your boss is coming to you and breathing down your neck. At startups, it's going to be like, so how can we move forward from this? How can we collaborate? And that's one of my favorite words is collaboration, right? That's something that's, absolutely necessary within any entrepreneur or startup or anything like that. Being able to fail right. I mean, I'm not saying go make intentional mistakes, obviously. Go try something new. That kind of mentality, it manifests. That kind of failing mentality manifests into more so curiosity, into being a trendsetter, being somebody who's willing to change the world. And that's where TekRevol is in the changing the world space, right? We're not here to just make you an application or website. We're here to make you something that is actually different, actually makes waves, something that you can look at and say, holy cow, this is going to be bigger than it was when I first thought of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of failing. The beauty of failing is trying things that seem impossible.
That is cool. A quote that I've heard and love is only those that can see the invisible can do the impossible. Because so many times people, if you don't believe that it's possible, you're not even going to try. So of course it's not going to happen. Where if you believe that it's possible, or there may be a chance of making something successful, you're way more likely to actually attempt what it is that you're trying to do, which of course leads to success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's awesome. So how long has it been since you started TekRevol?
So in Houston, we've been around for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Houston, and you have other locations as well. You guys are kind of global at this point.
Absolutely. So we've been in business for about 5 years. The first few years we're kind of getting our feet down. And I came in for the Houston side, right? I came in for Houston and the rest of our expansion. And that's been a journey of its own. Our headquarters is in Houston now. It's the place where we've kind of started really making waves. And from there we've expanded throughout all Texas, and we're in Chicago. We just got an office open in Ukraine, which is awesome. We're really excited about that. It's in Kiev. That should be really cool. And we're in Dubai too. So we're going to the GITEX thing next week, and that should be pretty fun as well. So that's exciting. But yeah, no, there's totally, it's been incredible growth. I mean, like absolutely incredible growth over the last few years. And that's, once again, it comes back to the collaboration. The collaboration that we have is something of, with a lot of software companies, with a lot of companies that are in space, that's where a lot of stuff fails. It's somewhere where we definitely strive. It's what we do. We collaborate, we brainstorm, and we make things happen.
Definitely. So what kind of people or businesses are you collaborating with? How are you really growing your client base and your customers? Are you collaborating with other people who have complementary solutions, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, collaboration doesn't stop at the business. Collaboration is on all levels. I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but there's a ton of ways that you can grow your business, and it's all gonna be through relationships. It all comes down to relationships at the end of the day. So if you're not collaborating, if you're not discussing ways out of the box of traditional methods of business with people that you might not be able to do business with, then you're missing out on tons of opportunity. So there's a lot of verticals that get missed when you're planning. There's a lot of strategic ways strategic analysis that can be done through like just talking to individuals you wouldn't even consider being a client.
Right.
One of these clients can turn in, not even clients, one of these relationships can turn into 10 clients for you with you not even managing one of them.
Exactly.
And like, that's the beauty of collaboration. It's finding ways to do things that can't be done in a traditional method.
I love what you said there, because a lot of people, they'll go to masterminds or events or conferences for just their space, and it doesn't give them that perspective of someone who's in a completely different area of business, right? So I had a mastermind in Houston for a while. And we had like a guy who does audio and visual. Another guy had an app. I'm sure you know some of these people if you're in the startup space and entrepreneur space. But my friend Safir, he has this app called Hamper. If you've ever heard of Hamper, I think he's in Station Houston, or maybe he had an office in WeWork or something like that. So you probably run into him at some point. But lots of people from different backgrounds give you ideas because their business is so different. Like me being in real estate, having those friends that are in completely different industries, hearing what works for them, what doesn't work for them, but also being able to share what might work for them based on a similar problem that I'm having in my business. That opens up so many more doors than if you're just talking to people that do the exact same thing you do. So that's a really solid nugget that everyone listening should implement, and make sure you have a very diverse set of friends and business owners that you collaborate with.
Absolutely. And just to add to that point is like, it doesn't just have to stop at the idea phase too. I mean, these can become people who pitch your product, and you could be somebody who pitches the product. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to work around the whole, just staying in the idea phase. You can make revenue out of this type of engagement.
Absolutely. And just coming from that abundance too, if you're always helping others and you're finding a way to add value to them in their lives, that could result in so many relationships. I think you said you might not even be working with that person, but they could still send you 10 potential clients. And I've seen the same thing with real estate, where we just have a friendly conversation every week, an accountability call. And then he's like, hey, my brother wants to buy a house. I'm going to send him your way. Boom. Right. Never had to ask or anything. It's just like attraction. So what's been some of your biggest challenges that you've maybe overcome or that you're facing now? What are you trying to work on to get to that next level?
So if you're an entrepreneur, if you've scaled to a certain point, you'll notice that, things, how do I say this? So things aren't, once you start getting people hired, a lot of the challenges as an entrepreneur come from the people you hire, right? Being a manager, actually being a manager, somebody who's not, a friend, but also somebody who respects the employees.
Yep.
Somebody who gives autonomy, but doesn't look over their shoulder too much. That's a really big piece, I think, of being an entrepreneur at a certain stage. And that's something that, books can teach you so much, this can teach you so much, that can teach you so much. It all comes down to understanding people are people, and how would you want to be if you were in their role? Would you want to have somebody looking over your shoulder, or would you want to be given a task and run with it and then be given the opportunity to fail, granted that opportunity to fail, and then be able to come to your boss and mention, hey, this happened. Is there a way that this can be improved, right? Like, so there's a lot of, and KPIs are key. I mean, there's so many things that go into, like, once you scale to the level where you have employees, there are so many things that you need to kind of learn that aren't really taught and you wouldn't know.
Right. Yep.
So that's a whole beast of its own. I could spend 40 minutes talking about that. But I would recommend, two basic things, just, if you're at that point, is the KPI setting. A lot of small businesses don't want to do it, but it's necessary. And then giving the autonomy as much as you don't want to delegate.
That's awesome, because I've heard this on a recent podcast that KPIs are kind of like that scoreboard. So everyone knows what's expected, right? Hey, here's where you stand. This is the goal. They know what they need to hit every month, every quarter, every year. And if they're falling short of those numbers, that's where you have that conversation with, their manager or their boss, whatever terminology we want to use. And they can start to figure out what is it that we need to tweak or refine in order to get to that next level. And that way it's not personal. It's not like, hey, I don't think you're doing a good job, because that person might be thinking that they're doing a great job. But if you don't have that defined with KPIs, it's very difficult to be speaking that same language. Whereas KPIs are that thing where it's like, hey, I don't have to tell you that you're not making your numbers. Like, you can see, let's have a conversation about that, not about you as a person, right? Mm-hmm. You can kind of separate the person from the business in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about, and this is so basic, but it's exactly what it is. It's setting goals yep. And setting expectations and incentivizing through those. And I mean, that's as simple as it can get.
Yeah.
Tie the goals to the results and you call it a day.
Absolutely. And then the autonomy piece is huge too, because it's like that golden rule, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Mm-hmm. Do you want someone looking over your shoulder every 5 minutes? Most likely not. Like, I don't know who would. Sometimes it's nice to have a little more guidance. I have also seen the other extreme where I tend to do this. I delegate it. Hey, you got it right. I'm not going to check in. 2 weeks later, hey, how's that thing going? And then they have no idea what to do because I wasn't giving them enough guidance. So making sure you have that open line of communication, that also helps, especially when giving autonomy, so that that person isn't feeling like, hey, I'm not getting the support that I need, you know?
And then, like, yeah, with the KPI setting and stuff, before you even get started, these, your employees, they need to understand their complete objective. And then you can set the KPIs, because if they don't understand that and you just let them run wild, they're not trying or failing. They're just kind of like, what do I do?
Right. They're running in all kinds of different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, like entrepreneurs do in many cases, right? So I'm curious, speaking of running in multiple directions, did you know this is what you wanted to do, or did you kind of stumble across a few ideas when coming across TekRevol or TekRevol, if I'm pronouncing that right?
TekRevol, yeah, TekRevol, short for Tech Revolution.
Love
So,
it. TekRevol.
absolutely. So, when going through that, I mean, I don't think it was ever my, dream to like do this, but as I grew, like, as from not at least not as a kid, but as I grew and learned about the technology space, and as I started doing school and stuff, obviously that was the way to go.
Yep.
And it made sense, and it's something that I always wanted to be a part of. Especially with my finance degree, I got very heavy into the fintech space. So it kind of all like led up to, me wanting to build people's dreams, right? I think as a kid, I always wanted to like have a career where I really help people, in some type of way, change the world at the same time. And, this allowed me both of those. So, I'm able to build people's dreams, and I'm also able to change the world.
That is really cool because you're able to actually, like you said, building dreams that has more of a mission driven purpose, like a vision. You're helping people, and that gives you more of that why, instead of just like, oh, we just build websites. No, it's like we build dreams, right? We help build dreams.
Yeah,
That sounds a lot more amazing when you wake up in the morning because you're changing the world and these people's lives.
absolutely. It's an incredible feeling, especially when, you get the, I guess, the gratitude at the end, whenever somebody has something they are just so proud of, and that you were able to contribute and build them something that they can even make a life out of, right? The career.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That can actually grow to support them and their families and be an income generating asset for them. That's awesome. So how many people are on your team these days in your Houston office? Like, I'm sure a lot of people are probably working remote or coming in and out of the office. How big is the team these days?
So we have about 175 people that work together. We're global, so we have people all over the globe. We have a pretty good sized Houston office, pretty good sized Dallas office. So we're working on a Chicago office. So it's scattered around.
Okay. Awesome. So you guys have multiple locations. How does it work with communication in teams? Do you guys do like a monthly check-in call or on Zoom or anything like that, or like a town hall type thing? How do you coordinate the message across the organization?
Yeah, we wouldn't be in business if we were only doing monthly, man.
I'm just wondering how often the touch points are.
Yeah, no, it's totally daily. We're always on the line. That's what we pride ourselves on, is communication. If we're not communicating internally, are we communicating externally? No. So we make sure that our internal communication is daily, and that we're always throwing events. We're always hosting award ceremonies. And we're always, giving people the gratitude and then the awards that they deserve for actions completed.
Absolutely. So what tools do you guys use in your business, if you don't mind sharing? I mean, if it's anything like obviously confidential, then don't share, but I'm just wondering, like, are you using Slack to communicate, or do you do like Zoom calls? I'm always interested to see what technologies other business owners are using.
Yeah, so we use CRM software. I'm not going to go into which, but we use CRM software primarily to handle all communications internally. We also use different chatting platforms to be able to chat on the spot or instant message. And then obviously we're always using Zoom, as everybody does. So we're pretty active on that as well. Yeah, we even host some types of team buildings through Zooms here and there. So
cool. Yeah, that's what I found with Zoom, is just it's way more convenient for so many people to jump in. Even you may have an occasional person call in from like the road while they're driving, but for the most part, most people are logging in from a quiet place, their home office, or like a corner office or something like that. Maybe even when I spoke to Hunter, who helped set up this call, I think he might have had that same background. maybe, I can't remember, but maybe he was in that same room that you're in now. If you're at the office right
Probably,
now.
yeah, we're in the same office. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, that might have been the case, but it enables so much more to happen way more quickly, and you're able to stay on top of everything. Um, but yeah, what are some of your annual goals that you guys work towards? I mean, do you set goals annually? Do you always revise them by the quarter, just depending on what things are looking like? How does that look like?
Sure, we have quite a few goals. One right now is our culture being voted number one. So we're actually nominated for a Timmy Award right now, for best corporate culture or best company culture. So that's something that we're really focused on and focused on, being awarded for, since like we do have an amazing culture, we do have amazing values within, and that's something we've been very, very focused on. Is just without the culture, without having a very efficient, effective, and also like kind of like I was saying earlier with the employees and everything, having that autonomy in your culture, it's something to where it's just something we're so proud of as far as like growing this company. So that's really cool. As far as other goals, we have the regular like development goals and stuff, but there's also other verticals we're looking at, as far as integrating different services within those. So that's a little bit proprietary, but it's always good when you do have a business to not only focus on your business, but look at what verticals you can attach to that business. So that's a little piece of little tidbit.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Lots of good stuff we're covering here. So, what would be one tip that you would recommend to someone who's looking to start a startup and they have no idea where to begin? Maybe they just have the idea. Is it to find like a technical founder? Would that be your first step, or to get some technical expertise? Any guidance or advice on that?
You'll never have a good an amazing business unless you have partners. The thing
Love
with
that.
partners is they bring different ideas to the table. You're not sitting there thinking yourself, hey, yeah, this will work. Hey, yeah, that'll work. And you're just confirming that yourself. Like, are you sure? So, having the partners, and, those partners need to be diverse in skills. You can't have two people the same thing, two people the same thing. Like, you need one person here, and then one person here. So let's say marketing, tech, finance, right? These are
Yep.
three places where you can have people. So like that's a great way to form a startup. I would never recommend going to business alone. I would never ever recommend it. Even with investors, if you talk to any investor, they're going to want to know who the founders are. If there's only one, they're probably not going to invest in you. So just to be very brief. Also, as far as like the partnership goes, getting started, you don't need an investment to get started. You don't need a ton of money to start anything. I mean, maybe if you're starting like a rocket company or something, but like if you're starting like a something that's actually a little bit more feasible for a startup to be in, maybe an accessory for the rocket, or maybe there's a platform that they're missing as far as the software goes that you think could really effectively help this rocket land, or the gyro, whatever you might see that might be an issue. A lot of people are doing like clean tech now, right? So they're figuring out ways to store, transfer, and have sustainable energy, right? So this is really cool stuff. But yeah, there's so many places to go. Pick one that makes sense to you, that you're passionate about, and then get a team behind you, and make sure all your visions are aligned. Always, they tell you this, always start with your mission vision statement. Helps you get the right way, and then you can get the SWOT analysis going, and then from there you can just start kind of acting on it, right? Everybody puts in a little bit of cash if that's the way you want to go about it. And then you get started, get incorporated, and start selling. Once you start selling, your very first time you sell, you can consider yourself a professional of that industry. So that's a little piece that can actually like help motivate you even further. So
Yeah, that's great, because partners and having just a strong team behind you, that will help you really go far. And I love that you said, I resonate with that too, because a lot of times I have a few people on like my quote unquote team. I'm using air quotes for those not watching the video, but I don't have like a legit team. It's like virtual assistants and contractors that I've assembled to help, accomplish the task for my real estate business. But it is oftentimes just me being like, what should I work on? This? Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I don't really have a sounding board. Whereas if you have partners in a true team, you're able to see and have someone else play devil's advocate to say, hey, I don't think that's a great idea, Ryan, or why don't we focus on that after we finish this first task at hand? And so you can kind of have that sounding board and maybe just come to a nice consensus on what you think the game plan needs to be, as well as to hold each other accountable.
absolutely, I agree.
Because the accountability piece is another tough part. If you don't have anyone to hold you accountable, like I need to almost hire myself a boss, right? I don't want a boss, but I need someone to just tell me what to do sometimes. So your partners are able to maybe do that at times where you're going in a certain direction. They can bring you back and say, hey, let's not focus on that. Or I love it. I'm going to throw more support your way. Let's keep pushing on that item.
Yeah,
But
it helps having the only way we move forward with anything is through a vote. And like, if we don't all vote on something, we don't do it.
yeah. How many partners or team members do you have right now that you guys vote among? Excuse me?
2 partners.
2 partners? Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's also not too many, because this is one thing I have heard from some real estate investor friends I've had. They've done partnerships where they've raised money from too many different people. And now to make a decision, they got to check with 5 or 7 people. And then by the time they do that, the opportunity to invest is gone. That house or whatever, it's already bought by somebody else, for an example. So having a few key partners will enable you to quickly make those decisions and have those conversations.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I've seen so many startups come in with so many partners, and then, you think, what about the investors? If you do go that route, like it's going to be tight, especially with dilution and everything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we talked about a lot of great stuff. Is there anything you think that we missed? Any other tidbits or nuggets you'd like to share with those looking to either start their own company or a product of some sort?
So, I mean, I think that we covered quite a bit here. I've gone through quite a few things. I think once again, I'll just kind of like rehash the making partnerships side of things.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can always, you only have yourself, you have your partners, if you do, and then you have the relationships you build along the way. Those relationships you build along the way are going to be your entirely your biggest supporters as you go. Especially as a starting, when you're starting up, it's something to where you can call upon them as you grow. They see you grow, being a part of the community, making yourself involved in the ecosystem. These are huge things that'll pay themselves out in tenfold in the future. You just got to keep building relationships. You got to keep tracking forward, and you have to make sure your product's a market fit. So, I mean, that's pretty much like a lot of my there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you've got to have the great product, but what you said there, product market fit. If you have a great product and you don't have the right market, like it's not going to be a fit. You've got to find that and then have those right partners. So I took a lot of great notes here, Ryan. Thank you so much for your time and for jumping on the show. Where can our listeners go to connect with you, to learn more about you, and to follow along your journey, or maybe even work with you guys?
Sure. Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Ryan Shirzadi on LinkedIn, and then that's really the only platform I use. So I'd love to connect with anybody there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. I will drop that in the show notes, and I'll also put your website as well for your company. And then feel free to stay connected. I mean, I have a lot of connections in Houston as well. So if there's anyone that I can connect you to or introduce you to that may be beneficial, please let me know.
Awesome. Yeah. And don't forget to check us out at www.TekRevol.com.
Awesome. I will also link that up in the show notes. Well, thank you once again, Ryan. Really enjoyed it today. Lots of nuggets, and you got it straight to the point. You're like, hey, do this, and that, get partners, and make sure to set goals. Really good. I mean, short and to the point, because a lot of times we tend to go overboard and we overcomplicate things that don't need to be that complicated, right? It almost sounds too simple to be true. It's like, really, that's all you got to do the startup. But we all know that simple does not necessarily mean easy, right? So there's still a lot of hard work that goes into all of this.
Absolutely. Ton of hard work, late hours. You'll be working 16 hours a day at the start. But as you continue to scale, hopefully that scales down and you can continue to live your life and everything. So yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Ryan. We'll be in touch soon, and I look forward to following along your journey.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate your time today.
Cool. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Chris Bello here. Just wanted to thank you real quick for listening to the show, whether you're listening on podcast or YouTube or wherever it is that you may be listening. I wanted to make that quick offer about real estate help. I am in the real estate business. That is my main business, and how I make all my income and my living by helping others buy, sell, rent, or invest in real estate across the nation. If you have any questions at all, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. Again, that is chrisbello.com/real estate. I'd love to see if I can help you out in my markets. And maybe if you're in a market outside of the ones that I'm focusing on right now, I'd love to connect you with a real estate professional who can help fulfill whatever needs or services that you are requiring. So again, go to chrisbello.com/real estate. A great thing is when I connect you with a vetted professional, if I'm not able to help you myself, is whenever a transaction closes, I'm actually able to get a referral commission. So that can be a great way of thanking me for my content. It helps to support the show, and it helps me to continue to spend time bringing on amazing guests, doing these great interviews, spending a lot of time on creating content, and making sure that I can bring you the very best information that you need to grow professionally, emotionally, intelligently, and in every single area. We're all working on getting better at everything. And so my focus and expertise is in real estate. I'd love to be the one to help you again. If you're not interested in that, no worries at all. Please continue to listen to the show. Make sure you leave a review. It helps so much in getting new followers and sharing the message. And thank you once again for being a listener. I'll catch you on the next episode.